You ready to let the dogs out?
What?
Do what? Let the dogs out. Like, ooh, let the dogs out. Ooh, ooh.
Off the Hook, airing on offthehooksports.com. Your home for real news, real opinions, and what really matters about Tennessee athletics. Always available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, TuneIn, iHeart. Like, share, follow, subscribe. Always available wherever you find your favorite podcasts.
Good morning, Tennessee, with probably exactly what they needed. Every bit as much of a win, a little bit of time to recoup, according to Cooper Mays and Jacob Warren, who are on our YouTube channel, as barely a half of football needed to be played to top UT Martin in convincing fashion. Good morning, Amanda LaFrada. How are you?
I'm doing well, Dave. How are you?
I'm well. Can't begin to describe what a break must be like for the guys that are actually on the football field. Talking to Jacob Warren and Cooper Mays yesterday, and it's on our YouTube page. Please like, subscribe, and share. Just a world of difference. And you could tell how they felt, going against Alabama in a full tilt game that went right down to the last second, and you're playing 70, 80 plays as opposed to playing, say, in Jacob Warren's case, he's used to playing 50 plays because he swaps out with Princeton Fan a lot. So he plays, 25-ish. Cooper plays 40-ish, somewhere in that number. And those types of games are very important for any team that wants to make a championship run. So I know that you had a big, huge monster festival at Zool Beer Company, and you said like 60 vendors. So it was huge. I'm not sure how much you were able to watch the game, but I know you always go back and watch the All 22 tape that Chris Landry sends us, and we went over that in our 5 o'clock production meeting this morning. So, but your thoughts on these kind of games, Amanda, might go away. Like if I have my way, and you and I disagree on this, if I have my way, it's more like the NFL where every week's losable. An 8-9 win team, and I know this sounds so foreign, an 8-9 win team might make a playoff. But these type of games, as of right now, are absolutely vital. So your thoughts on how the Vols played and took care of business?
I mean, I think they just realistically took care of business. I mean, these games, there's not much that comes from these games except for you're happy when you have them because it's essentially kind of a bye week. You just get to go out and practice against somebody that doesn't look like the person you practice against every day. So with that being said, I like them being here because I think you need that week. I think it benefits both the smaller team and the larger team because you need that week to see what you have. If any of your starters go down, you need to see your backups out there. Like you just do to see them in game time situations so that you can put them in or they can fill in if somebody goes down. And I think this is the perfect way to give those second, third stringers, the chance to make something of themselves, but in a game that you're not going to lose. Like it's not a scary game.
This is Kentucky week, and if you're not following him, follow Ron Slay on Twitter. This means a lot to him because I wake up to my Twitter feed, and he's already retweeting people that are tweeting at him that it is Kentucky week. And, of course, he plays basketball, but it means something in football as well to Ron, and he'll join us on Wednesday. But it is Kentucky week, and probably – if you want to look at the predicted point spreads, Amanda, it is the biggest challenge for Tennessee remaining on the schedule, not wearing red. And if you want to go to offthehooksports.com, and I'll go through some of the numbers with the predicted point spreads that are out there, Amanda, Tennessee very well should, if you want to go by point spreads, go 11-1 if you go by point spreads, and you've actually got them beating Georgia, so it could be even better than that. So this is the point of the schedule where Tennessee has to bear down, play their best game against Kentucky, their best game against Georgia. But other than that, how challenged are they going to be against the South Carolinas, Vanderbilts, and Missouris of the world? I would say not very. You?
South Carolina did sneak into the top 25 at 25 this past weekend. They did sneak in. However, I feel like a big part of that is their win against Kentucky. And we know Will Levis didn't play that game. So that to me doesn't seem like a good fit at 25. I had a friend of mine who sent me a text that was like, we're in the top 25 now. We're abysmal, because I said that they were abysmal. Well, you beat Kentucky, like, without Will Levis.
Yeah.
Without Will Levis. That's what you've done. So I think we're just running out of teams put in the top 25.
I don't think there's an elite team this year, which opens the door for Tennessee.
No,
I don't. I mean, maybe it's Ohio State, but they're going to have to show me that in the college football playoff, because I think you and I agree that that's a little suspect.
Yeah, Ohio State's always a little suspect, because I feel like they start out the year, really strong, and they really didn't start out the year strong against Notre Dame. They kind of struggled against Notre Dame. But they start out the year strong, and they beat up all these smaller teams. And then when it gets to playing the big boys, they falter every single season.
Yep. The Down and Dirty at 30 is brought to you by Honeybee Coffee. So when Amanda's not chugging Zool beer at zoolbeer.com, which is the official craft beer of Off the Hook Sports, she's drinking Honeybee Coffee, and Honeybee Coffee, which she's probably drinking right now, is fantastic. None of that coffee hangover, which you coined that term. I hadn't heard that before, but it's true, because I don't drink coffee except when I go to Honeybee Coffee. And why is Honeybee so good, Amanda?
It's just good. It just tastes good. You get that like coffee boost without the hangover, and with the top 5% of beans in the world, I mean, it's good. It says what it is.
Yep. Don mentioned, I loved how you touched on spirituality with them, Dave, talking about Jacob Warren and Cooper Mays. Well, that's part of something that I'm working on. And just to give you an idea, that is usually frowned upon in journalism, to discuss spirituality, and in this particular case, Christianity. And the reason is, from a business standpoint, you could alienate a good portion of your listeners, viewers, readers, whatever you want to call it. But to me, it became a story, and a consistent story, when Princeton Fant came out and thanked God before he spoke to the media last week. I bet Jacob Warren 2 out of 3 times has worn a Christian T-shirt. So no matter what they believe in, which is Christianity and good morning to you, Orange Blood, no matter what you believe in, and they are Christianity, I do believe in the fact that belief has gotten them in a large extent to this point. Belief in something, Amanda, and with them, it happens to be Christianity. Maybe if we were having this discussion about a soccer team somewhere else in the world, it might be another religion. But I'm not here to tell you what to believe in. But thanks for noting that, Don. And it's something that I'm going to write today, that I believe this belief system, I'm saying believe a lot, is a factor in their success. Amanda, I truly believe that.
There's a lot of beliefs in what you just said. But I agree. I'm a Christian, so I'll just put that out there. And I think a lot of what they're doing is kind of, when you meditate on the right things, you manifest what you can do. Playing as a team, having the same goals, having the same values is a big deal. Because when you're playing for something more than just yourself, it makes it that much better and that much easier to accomplish.
Don said, is it good coffee, Amanda? Well, absolutely, because it's Honeybee Coffee. It's top 5% of the beans in the world. Kentucky Week means more to Mr. Vol basketball. Go Slay. He will join us on Wednesday. Looking forward to that. And John saying you wouldn't alienate too many Vol fans with the Christianity. I hope not. And to me, it's a a newsworthy story, regardless of what I believe, of what really they believe. I think it's gotten to the point where it's been very pervasive. But I can tell you that in most situations, in most newsrooms, writing upon such things are frowned upon. But we do things a little bit different at Off the Hook Sports. So Down and Dirty at 30 is brought to you by Honeybee Coffee. And some of these numbers are just absolutely unbelievable. Let's take a look at Jalen Hyatt to begin with. He's doing more than some teams all by himself. Jalen Hyatt has produced 8 40-yard receiving plays this season, which leads the nation. The next closest is 5. The 8 by Hyatt is better than 11 SEC teams, their entire team total for the year. So he has more 40-plus receiving yards than 11 SEC teams. Hyatt has produced, again, 8 40-yard receiving plays, which is just unbelievable. That tops Arkansas, Alabama, Auburn, LSU, Florida, Ole Miss, Missouri, A&M, Vanderbilt, Georgia, Mississippi State. Now, we could say these were inflated numbers if they came against Ball State, Akron, and UT Martin, but that's not the case. Many of them, 4 came against Alabama. So the Jalen Hyatt story is one that I think is probably the and there's so many good stories. It ranks right up there. The fact that he has admitted publicly that he was just absolutely not ready to step into any sort of a starting role, that he thought he was, but he wasn't last year. And I've just continually, Amanda, been blown away by that young man. He's got faith in something, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think he scored 5 touchdowns in Tennessee versus Alabama, if I'm not mistaken. He broke
5, 4 were 40 yards or more.
Oh, okay. I thought you just meant that he scored 5 touchdowns, but he did break a record, and that's pretty insane considering, all of the good wide receivers that Tennessee has and has had in the past. But he's sneaky good. He's like a Julian Edelman. I mean, he's just like, or a Wes Welker. He's just sneaky good. Like, he will burn you every time, and you don't realize it. He's like the little fast guy. Like, you don't, like Jalen Waddle was at Alabama. They'll get by you, and then there's no point after that. Once they get by you, they get by you, and then you're done.
I definitely like your first 2 comparisons because he plays the slot primarily, and I'm sure there was temptation with his size to slide him outside, but you're in good shape there with Brew McCoy, and then Cedric Tillman's going to come back. And shout out to Ramel Keaton, who, for the most part, tends to be there when Tennessee is needed. There was the one reception that he should have caught against Alabama that he failed to continue to run through the route. But so you can see why Tillman and McCoy are the main go-to guys at wideout. But again, Ramel Keaton had a big game, and he would be the number 1 receiver in a lot of different places. We'll ask Chris Landry about that later in the program. The coach, Chris Landry, will join us at LandryFootball.com. And then a breakdown of Tennessee's remaining schedule. So now with UT Martin, which everybody knew was going to be a win, let's take a look at the projected point spreads. Tennessee, a 12-point favorite, according to BetSmart US and their model. Now, point spreads continue to come out throughout the day, and they're going to adjust slightly. But I like going by this because it comes out before the actual numbers come out, and they were right on the money with 42 points in the UT Martin game. Georgia, it looks like Tennessee will be a 10-point underdog on the road. Missouri, based off this model, should be approximately a 20-point favorite. Tennessee should be a 20-point favorite. South Carolina, it looks like that South Carolina will be a 12-point underdog, even in Columbia. And then Vanderbilt, a 24-point favorite. So in those games, we're not talking 4 and 5 point potential spreads, Amanda. We're talking double-digit spreads, and that is very significant. Tennessee would have to slip up mightily to lose one of those games. Georgia and Kentucky are a different matter altogether, but still, Kentucky we're thinking is a 12-point favorite at this point, according to the model we use. Kentucky's a 12-point underdog. So, Amanda, certainly the cards are stacked in Tennessee's favor from this point out.
Yeah. I think Tennessee shocked a lot of people, especially in Vegas, with what they are able to accomplish and the amount of points that they're able to put on the board. I know the over-unders at first were not as big as they are now. So
For
this hype will
win totals?
no over-under for points per game. Yeah, for over-under totals.
Man,
on.
Can you imagine if I don't even know if you can make this bet, Amanda? You might if you took Tennessee. If you took every game in the over this year, if you could bet every game in the over, like let's say it's whatever against Ball State, it's 65.5 against Florida, just to go on and on. It's 54.5. If you could take the over with Tennessee's offense, you'd probably win every single game.
Oh yeah. I mean, probably not now, though. Not moving forward. I don't think you're going to win every single game because I think Vegas is going to adjust accordingly. But yes, I think that Tennessee's blown some people away with as many points as they're able to score.
Anna G, good morning from Memphis. She's still in bed. Get up. Hit at it. Come on.
I wish I was.
And come on, Ann. She's in John's in Collierville. Beautiful, crisp morning today. It is. And John says we make UK one-dimensional, take away the run game, we win by 20. I think Tennessee's going to be in good shape. Do they stub their toe at some point? It's certainly possible, but I don't see it this week. Like, share, and subscribe. We greatly appreciate that. Become part of the family, and we'll be with you each and every weekday at 8:30 Eastern. For you, and Pedigo Chattanooga is locally owned, a store where you'll be treated like family, the region's foremost electric bike experts. They put their hearts into helping you find the perfect electric bike and get the most out of it for many, many years to come. Pedigo Electric Bike is the very best way to experience Chattanooga and beyond. They are simply awesome. So check them out, Pedigo Chattanooga. I did have an opportunity to text back and forth with Heath Schuler after Hendon Hooker beat his record on Saturday. So Saturday evening, Heath said what I would expect, just a stand-up guy, and said records are meant to be broken, that he couldn't be happier for Hendon Hooker, who broke the consecutive games with a touchdown record at 19. It was 18. He tied the record last week, but now it is 19, a touchdown pass. Hooker tied that record against Alabama, broke it with the Skyhawks on Saturday. So he said, congratulations. Said he's heard nothing but great things about Hooker, who was he knows pretty well because Heath's son, Navy Schuler, is a Tennessee quarterback. Hooker saying it's a blessing. I haven't gotten the chance to talk to Heath yet. I was talking to Navy, his son, yesterday, and he was telling me, hey, you got to grab a picture with my dad after you break the record. Heath was there. It was homecoming, but so were 100,000 other people. So it can be difficult to hook up. And a couple of other notes quickly. I'm not going to run through the report card as we typically do on a Monday because it was UT Martin. But a couple of by the numbers that you can find on offthehooksports.com. Tennessee's latest win, that 65-24 victory over UT Martin, carried on a common theme. The Vols can score points, have incredible playmakers, and are tough to keep in check offensively. How about this? Tennessee football scores its most points in a game since 2000, 65-24 over UT Martin. Hendon Hooker set the record, as we mentioned, most consecutive times, 7 receptions, 174 yards, 2 touchdowns. Alabama, 8 targets, 6 receptions, 207 yards, 5 touchdowns. And then at LSU, for the last 2 quarters of that game, 4 receptions, 63 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And 344 points, the most for Tennessee. Some of these numbers are just bizarro. 344 points, that's the most for the Vols. than the entire seasons of the following years in the last decade, 2020, 2019, 2018, 2017, 2013. There's a common theme there. There's a lot of Jeremy Pruitt bullet head. Now that, the 344 points, was in the third quarter of Game 7. So what do you think Tennessee fans like more, winning or winning the way they're doing with the points? That's pretty exciting.
It's kind of a catch-22 question because I think both are winning. So I think they just like winning, Dave. I think that's the answer. They just like winning.
They do. They incredibly do. But the way they're doing it is very exciting. And we'll discuss Tennessee and Hendon Hooker's odds now to win the Heisman. Other than, God forbid, a suspension injury, something like that, that's totally unforeseen, I don't see how Hendon Hooker's not at the Heisman ceremony. I don't see how he's not a real contender. And something I was going to write about today is, could the Peyton Manning sort of effect, being the leader throughout the season, affect C.J. Stroud? Because everybody has just kind of said it's C.J. Stroud's award to win. And at times, that's the position you'd want to be in. Because there were people that would cast their votes. Amanda, I know you're going to just absolutely cringe when you hear this. They would cast their votes in late October or early November. And to me, that's just idiotic. Well, now it's different. It's all electronic and you don't even open it up. So you can't even send in your ballot via FedEx. And that being said, CJ Stroud could have a wearing sort of effect on some voters because he has been the leader throughout. I think Peyton Manning, that was a factor. That losing to Florida was a factor in why he didn't win. But I wonder if people get tired of, some of the voters get tired of CJ Stroud, and they go in a different direction. You shouldn't vote like that. You should vote who you think is the best. But people are people.
Well, sometimes I think that people have this thought in their mind of CJ Stroud being so good and then he doesn't live up to their expectations. I think that might be more of the reason their votes change, is because whoever was the favorite doesn't really live up to the expectations that were set by, media or whoever. So then you start looking at, well, who is making a difference on their team? Because again, like I've said, CJ Stroud could be anybody at Ohio State right now. You could put in their backup and probably get the same results. So with this Tennessee team, though, Hendon Hooker can't. There can't just be Joe Milton go in there and do the same thing that Hendon Hooker is doing. It's just that's not possible at Tennessee, at least not in my opinion.
Let me ask you this question, Miranda. Could Joe Milton be a Heisman candidate if he played for Ohio State this season?
Yes.
No hesitancy.
No hesitancy. As long as he the only thing I could say about Joe Milton is, as long as he's got his head clear, he doesn't make, stupid decisions like he did last season. As long as that's cleared up, then yeah, be just fine.
John said Hooker and UT is a better story. OSU's schedule is garbage compared to UT. Heck, even half the SEC teams play people. Ohio State, they will play Michigan. And Michigan they played Penn State. They handled Penn State. I'm not a believer in James Franklin or Penn State. Again, we talked about it. What did you say last week? That it was like two really good-looking people that kind of want to sort of to get out of a relationship that they were afraid they couldn't do better. Is that the way you put it?
Yeah. Ohio State hasn't played Penn State yet. They play on the 29th.
Okay, so upcoming.
So, yes, they're upcoming. Michigan played Penn State, and Michigan beat the pants off of Penn State.
41-14 or somewhere along.
Yes, something like that. But yes, it's two, James Franklin and Penn State are two attractive people who don't know if they're necessarily going to do better. So they just keep on in the same relationship because Penn State doesn't know if they can get anyone better up there, and James Franklin doesn't know if he can get a better job. So we just sit here in limbo?
Yeah, it's like my wife. I mean, she realizes
So
that
hard.
I'm super, super hot. So for her, maybe she could do better, but really, do you want to take that chance?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. You hit the nail on the head. I mean, my God, Dave, I don't even know how I sit here on this, on this show with you. As hot as you are, I should just be like this big in the corner.
It's hard, isn't it?
It's terribly difficult. Terribly.
John said he likes your analogy on the Penn State thing too.
Thank you.
But they're really not even two hot people. They're two fairly good-looking people.
I mean, they're pretty in the terms of college football, hot, because all you have to do is go up against Ohio State every year. You don't really have another schedule other than that. Ohio State and Michigan, those are the only two teams you have to play as Penn State, and you're up there with all the whiteout and all the crazy fans. So, I mean, that's a pretty hot job, I would say. It's fairly easy. You could probably have a 10-2 season every year. But then you have, James Franklin, who did really well at Vandy, and everyone loved him and wanted him there. So I don't know. You have worse coaches.
True. When I think hot, using that analogy, I would
think of yourself.
And then after that, I think it would be Nick Saban, Alabama, Georgia, Kirby Smart. Those are both hot. I mean, they are proven. The universities have proven they will provide you with what you need to win. You have shown them that you can win. To me, Penn State and James Franklin are just kind of good looking.
No, see, the Saban is beautiful. He's not hot. Josh Heupel is hot. Saban is beautiful. Saban is that without makeup, whatever, attractive person. Josh Heupel is that up and coming, like the young, like movie star kind of person that's coming on the scene. He's hot. There's a difference.
By the way, can you pull up that picture that my wife emailed us during the show one day? A young Josh Heupel looks remarkably like Justin Timberlake.
A smaller Josh Heupel.
A smaller, younger Josh Heupel. We'll get to that and get Chris. I'm sure Chris Landry wants to weigh in on that. We'll get Chris Landry's thoughts, his grades on the Vols in just 2 minutes. Big Orange Phillies, a great place to watch the game, family friendly. You give me 2 minutes, I give you Chris Landry. Please like, subscribe, share, comment, and we'll get back to you in 2 minutes.
Gary Viles here. I want to personally invite you to North Knoxville's newest sports bar and restaurant. It's Big Orange Phillies, located in Black Oak Center. And yes, folks, it's happening in Halls. Big Orange Phillies offers family-friendly environment with homemade meals and the best deli-style subs around. Billiards, darts, jukebox, shuffleboard, and cornhole, and a full bar. We also offer valet parking on weekends and during special events. We even have a covered back patio. It's happening at Big Orange Phillies. We want, we need, and we appreciate your business.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
This is Al's Dish Barbecue Supply, so come on in and see all the different rubs and sauces we have, plus a complete line of Green Mountain grills. Don't be overwhelmed. We have plenty of help so you can produce the best barbecue and amaze your family and friends. Barbecue is America's food. We'll do what we can to bring you all the best products. We're Al's Nest Barbecue, where Chattanooga goes to grill.
Do you want to own the more that owns every job? Then get to Vassey Lawn and Garden in Cleveland and get you a Toro. I'm David Vassey, here to talk to you about Toro. With a Toro Zero turn, you'll get more out of every minute and you'll reach the finish line faster. At Bassey's, we like to say, no matter if you're mowing 3 acres a week or 11 lawns a day, homeowners and business owners alike find confidence in equipment they can trust from top to bottom.
Bassey Lawn and Garden, Highway 60 North in Cleveland.
Man alive, it's worth the drive.
Welcome back. She is Amanda LaFrada. I'm Dave Hooker. Coming up, message board bingo. We'll give away stuff. And you actually get to choose now. Okay, and then we have the picture of, if you're watching on video, of a young Josh Heupel and Justin Timberlake. Do they look alike? On our message board, what do you think? What do you think, Amanda? I see some similarities there. I do.
I mean, it's a stretch.
It's stretch.
It's a stretch. They have similar expressions. Maybe noses. Noses is probably what they have more similar to anything else, and a little bit of a hairline thing. But it's a stretch.
Well, keep in mind too that you have tight haircuts, but you also have what I would think is pretty massive grooming on Justin Timberlake's side, because Justin Timberlake, he does not have the furry eyebrows that Josh Heupel has. But I would think Justin Timberlake probably sees like a aesthetic person each and every day. Would you agree with that?
I mean, he's married to Jessica Biel, so
he's doing all right. All right, let's ask Chris Landry. Chris Landry, you can see that on your screen. Can we bring it back for just a second? Yeah. Chris Landry, does Josh Heupel look like Justin Timberlake, the mega super pop star? What are your thoughts?
Oh, I was wondering who the heck was this guy? Who did he play for?
Justin Timberlake is one of the, and admittedly, Chris doesn't keep up with any sort of pop culture, but Justin Timberlake's like a big superstar. He does music and stuff.
Now that's Josh. That's a young player, Josh. That's I love Josh, but that's like 2 chins ago. You know, he's
fair point.
He put on a little weight there. He's put on a little weight there, particularly around the face there. That was ugly. It was ugly for a Monday morning. I didn't mean to be ugly. I just, let's just call it. I think Josh would understand. Hey, look, you get into coaching, not much time for exercise, not much time for sleep. The eyes get droopy, the chins get bigger. And just, hey, I've been there, done that.
Oh man, Dawn has a line. Timberlake is married to Jessica Biel. Josh Heupel is married to Jessica Mill. Oh. That was harsh. Amanda's looking at me like I shouldn't have even read that. Hey,
I don't even have a clue what y'all are talking about. So that apparently is pretty bad because Amanda's mouth is her chin, her thin little beautiful face. The chin just dropped to the death. So I have no idea what that means. I'm assuming it's not good.
Amanda's like trying to drop weight or something. Like, she's beautiful and she's on some sort of diet. I'm like, you do what you need to do. You're gorgeous.
No,
I'm not on a diet. I'm just.
But her chin was just like, wow. So I don't know what that was all about. So I guess so much for that. We've insulted enough people today. Just kidding. Us coaches just kind of kid each other. That's no big deal. But apparently that one you read pretty bad. Somebody explain that to me off the air. And, when you get a 10, maybe send me a text or something. I have no idea what that means. I don't know.
Jessica Mill, as in he likes to eat.
Oh, Mill. I thought he was talking about his wife.
Oh no,
being
no,
overweight.
No. I have no idea what Josh Heupel's wife looks like. Let's just move on. Chris,
that's what happens when you play UT Martin. You get this type of stuff.
That's right.
And any porn sites pop up today that we know of on that?
Yes, actually
we have. It has.
Yep,
okay.
I just deleted one. So, Chris, what are your thoughts on the way Tennessee handled UT Martin? Did exactly what they were supposed to do, right?
Yeah, no, I thought they played, a pretty clean game. what I liked about it is they threw a lot of stuff in there that you got to prepare for. We talked about that last week, didn't we? Put stuff in there to make people prepare for that, because it is the opposite, I think, of what fans in the media say. Oh, save that play for when you play Georgia. No, what you want to do is you want to throw as much stuff in to make people prepare for it. Because I don't care whether you're not going to run that again against them. They still got to prepare for it, because you might. So that's kind of, I liked what they did, and, I thought it was business-like. It's the way I would approach it in taking care of business against UT Martin, which, by the way, and I mentioned this, we didn't discuss it much last week, no reason to, but on my podcast, we break down all the games, and so we even talk a little bit even about the UT Martins, and that team actually, can rush the passer pretty well for their level, and they're not a bad program at all, and don't have a bad team for their level. But the game pretty much went the way I expected it did. Thought some good performances from the tight ends, and did a really good job. Particularly Fant did a good job, and Hyatt did another good job. I thought Keaton played well for him. Squirrel White got some work too. Thought William Wright did some good things in the secondary. He got some plays out of the return game. D. Williams, I thought it was a really workmanlike job.
So we look at Hendon Hooker, and I know we've gotten past UT Martin, and coming up is a pretty rough stretch, at least 2 games, Kentucky and Georgia. How much does Hendon Hooker's composure affect this Tennessee team?
Oh, I think it's a lot. I think he affects it in such a positive way because he's so comfortable running this offense, really good in making decisions. We've talked about him protecting the football. That's what you want. That's what you need. This is an offense that fits him, and it's got playmakers deep. I think what's going to be interesting to see to me, and I would imagine Kentucky's going to do this, and in fact, I know what Bray White's going to do. I mean, it's just they're going to play a lot of 2 deep shell. You've got to, because I always look at it. How would somebody try to beat our team? And when we coach, and because that's how you kind of prepare and try to stay on point. The way you have to slow down Tennessee is you have to prevent the deep ball. So, I mean, you have to keep your safeties deep. That means you have to defend the run without numbers. So you have to defend the run with your base front. So you have to play 2 deep shell. So you've got a safety you can leverage correctly with the corner, play outside leverage towards the boundary with the receiver between them. And then you've got a safety help on the inside. You've got to do that both ways. And quite frankly, it's difficult to do because they run 3 receivers. And so you really need a nickel back there that's going to line up and cover the slot and man coverage wise. And you're probably going to need a linebacker out there. Can you do all of that and still defend the run? That's the conflict of assignment that we talked about, like with Alabama. Alabama had to decide, now stop the run, stop the pass. Well, normally the thing you do is you got to stop the run because that's the easiest way to get beat. Because the long pass, they might overthrow it. He might drop it like Mike Evans did for the Bucs yesterday. If you saw that game, I mean, you just never know what's going to happen. It's a tougher execution, but running the football, you've got to disrupt that. I think the 2 things you got to do is you've got to do the best job you can defending the run, and you better bring the heat. Alabama lost that game, and Tennessee won it, not because of the passing game, but because of the pass protection that allowed the passing game to flourish and be so great. I thought that Alabama would be more effective rushing from the edge. So that's what I think Kentucky's going to focus on. And I think when the point I'm trying to make in getting us to Hendon Hooker is if you make Tennessee go the length of the field, they don't want to go on 8-play drives. They want to score quick. And I think that would test the patience, test the, if you get a little antsy, you force the football. No one's been able to do that consistently well enough to force that. So I think he's done a phenomenal job, and I think he'll continue to do that. But if somebody's able to cause some problems in that regard, I'm curious to see how he handles that. Georgia or Kentucky this week.
J-Mac Volunteer said on the 247 Sports webpage, it shows a team talent composite ranking. Now, 247 is known for coming up with more rankings than I can possibly count. But and I'm going to go with what J-Mac posted on our message board. I haven't seen this with my own eyeballs. By the way, thank you, Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn for LASIK. I'll tell you more about that. I underwent that on Friday, and I can see like an eagle.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Did you? We talked about that. Awesome.
Yes, I can see like an eagle. I can see into your soul, Chris Landry.
Didn't I tell you? I had that a few years ago. I'm a little older, so I got the reading glasses for if I got to read the schedule or something.
They did the mono vision where I can see in one eye close and the other eye my brain adjusted.
Okay, I'm going to Chattanooga. We got to get that done.
Well, it's in Knoxville, Campbell.
In Knoxville. I'm going to Knoxville. We can get that done.
Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn Vision Center. I'll tell you more about them as we go along. So, but this J-Mac posted that Tennessee is ranked number 19th in talent composite ranking, and that every SEC team they played so far, Alabama is 1, LSU is 8, and Florida is 12. When you look at pure talent, not scheme, not that other stuff, not the stuff that's hard to put a finger on, such as team chemistry, would you have Tennessee at 19-ish in the nation as far as talent?
First of all, those rankings are very misleading, and
yes.
they do reflect guys. I think I don't know because I don't really, but I'm imagine they take the recruiting rankings and they just throw them. Well, that doesn't tell you how good the players developed.
Yeah.
Right.
So that doesn't mean that they're just because you're quote unquote ranked. Like, okay, Alabama's got more talent than Tennessee. Alabama secondary is not as good as Tennessee's receivers.
Yeah.
You know, overall, but it's about styles. It's about matchups. You know, for example, you saw the game, and I'm using this because this is Tennessee's last real game against Alabama. They took advantage of that. Mississippi State, people will say, oh, yeah, I got asked this 10 times. Well, Mississippi State, you saw what Tennessee did against Alabama secondary. Look what Mississippi State's going to do. No, they're not. You watch football. Tennessee goes vertical, and Mississippi State runs crossing routes. And Mike Leach doesn't adjust. Mike Leach doesn't understand pass protections. That's why Mississippi State, under Mike Leach, can't even – I mean, they scored a garbage touch. They haven't scored a touchdown. Mike Leach, that was his first touchdown that he scored against Alabama since Nick Saban. I mean, the point is about matchups. The overall talent stuff that's not who has the best talent. That's who has the highest number of guys as they were recruited in high school and where they're ending up now. That's one of the problems with recruiting evaluations. People talk about, well, they've got the best talent. How do you know that? Have you studied it? No. Do you know how to study it? No. But I read it on 247. Yeah, okay, well, that's the problem. A&M, I don't know, but I would imagine, where is A&M ranked on this? I would bet
as a matter of fact, somebody said that same composite ranking had A&M at number 4 at the beginning.
There you go, number 4 in the country. You know what? A&M's defensive line, young guys, some of the best in the country. Don't have a quarterback. Don't have enough skill position guys. So you can have talent on paper. Do you have a quarterback? Do you have playmakers? Do you have, offensive line's not very good? Yes, you can have, quote unquote, a great class and you're loaded at one position. Oh, but you don't have a good offensive line. You don't have playmakers. You don't have a quarterback. Oops. That's not a balanced team. I mean, it's just, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I get it. What it means, though, I would say this. What it tells you, Tennessee's got really good skill position guys. Their offensive line's playing well. And as a result, their defense is in more advantageous positions to have some success. And I think, but here's the biggest thing where I think this might play out a little bit. Where is Tennessee going to be next year and the next 3 years? Is this a a year where they're peaking. And I don't know that this is going to be the same thing every year, that they're, going to be 11 win, 10 win type team. That's the difference. Whereas you can look at it's easy to say Alabama's got the best recruiting class, because when you look at recruiting classes, remember, these sites don't evaluate players. I do, but they don't look at film, and they're not really qualified to evaluate players. But here's what they do. Dave Hooker being recruited by Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State. Guess what? Dave's now a 5-star. Amanda was a 3-star. She's recruited by the state. She's now training for, because it's the best teams recruit the best players, because we know that. And yet we kind of make assumptions. But look at how many of the players, even at an Alabama, that doesn't pan out. Like Alabama's got some really good young players, but they don't have experience either. Tennessee's got a lot of experience. They've got a quarterback that's in his second year, very comfortable, good system. Got some key guys on defense that are stepping up, playing better up front. The offensive line, we talked about that last week, some of the moves they make, some experience there. You're having to rebuild it. It takes a while, and there's a drop-off. And so if you got a gap on your roster, or you've got young guys that you've got to develop, just because you've got elite classes you still have to develop them. Recruiting players are like the meat of the meal. Coaching is the seasoning, the marinade, and the cooking, the length of time that you cook it, is the developmental process, the coaching process. So those are the things that I think need to all come together, because we all know that if you don't have our great rub and everything for our great sponsors, then my brisket doesn't taste real good.
That's right.
If I try to cook it in 2 hours when it's supposed to be 8, not too good. I can probably eat it. It's maybe bad. Maybe I'm not trying to be cute, but that's the difference. So yes, it's a great job, and it's a credit to what Josh is doing, but I find it comical how everything is a different narrative, because I think 3 weeks ago, Brian Kelly was a dunce that couldn't coach. Now he's the greatest thing. And, and then in 2 weeks, if they lose to Alabama, he's going to be a dunce again. Sure. It's kind of paced it down. Josh has done a really good job. We'll see the rest of this season, and then over the next 5 years, if he can sustain it and recruit at that level. Because if he can't, and he can't develop it, it's not magic pixie dust that he has that he can throw out there every year.
Chris's appearance brought to you in part by Craft Treats. That's who he was referring to. Craft Treats right there in Ottawa. They have everything that you need in terms of barbecuing and smoking, and they have it all right there. I'm sorry, Owl's Nest Barbecue.
I was like, Craft Treat
in her head. Owl's Nest Barbecue. But seriously, I did pick up some. I was thinking about Owl's Nest Barbecue over the weekend, so I stopped in and picked up some to-go things. And Owl's Nest Barbecue, we're going to be able to give away some fantastic prize packs. But they got the rubs, they have the sauces, they have everything you need at Owl's Nest Barbecue. Sorry,
I tell you what, that you put that Owl's Nest Barbecue on there, and your dog will be licking his lips, and you're going to need to give him some Craft Treats to calm him down. I can tell you that right now.
That's exactly right. Or Owl's Nest Barbecue. Owl's Nest Barbecue is fantastic, and we'll tell you more about Craft Treats and their chill pills. Partly the reason that I got a little flustered there is because Tinder is once again attacking our message board. So evidently they think Chris Landry is a prime candidate, and maybe he wants to find a date. I don't know. But I know, Amanda, you're going to jump in here. Brittany did say, so essentially it's a popularity contest. Yes, and remember that in football season, when recruiting is over, when football season is over and recruiting is in full force, there are a lot of coaches, some that have coached at Tennessee, that may rhyme with Nooch owns. And he would specifically call recruiting analysts to try to get a star added to a player once that player committed to Tennessee. So, yes, it is a lot of it in recruiting as a popularity contest. I'm sorry, Amanda, go right ahead.
Maybe it's all the licks and rubs or whatever you're talking about that brings the Tinder people on over to the channel.
Yeah, I guess.
I don't know.
I wouldn't have gone there if I'd have known that. But
Swipe left for rubs.
Yeah, let's maybe spell it out or something. I don't know. Anyway, we saw LSU versus Ole Miss. We saw Kiffin get handled. I mean, that Ole Miss team got handled by LSU. And I know last week we talked about this huge storyline, Lane Kiffin versus Josh Heupel in the SEC championship, blah, 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 blah. Has this Ole Miss team just been – I did not think they're very good. And then now, of course, they've got me worried. But now, again, don't think they're very good. Is this Ole Miss team just been like posers, or was this a LSU Brian Kelly type of just out-coach Lane Kiffin type of thing?
It's a little bit of both. I mean, you look at Ole Miss, Troy, Central Arkansas, at Georgia Tech, Tulsa. Kentucky was a nice win, at Vanderbilt, Auburn. So what did we say about Ole Miss? We're going to learn about them on the road at LSU, with the toughest road game being at Georgia Tech this year. So if you look at them, you hear this again. It's not my poke taking shots at people, but it's like, it's the overreaction of, okay, well, the defense is great because all the statistics say, well, statistics in college, I'm going to tell you, in the NFL, it has some validity because it's relative 32 in college. Statistics don't matter unless they're conference statistics. Look at that. If you want to look at how you match up in conference play, but if you look at the schedule that they played and you look at somebody that's played 3 or 4 tough teams, well, the stats should be skewed. You should have more yards and give up less yards and all of that. So I didn't think we knew enough about Ole Miss. I think defensively they were vulnerable. I think what surprised me is how LSU was able to make adjustments. You looked at Ole Miss, they got 14 points pretty quickly. This is twice now, actually 3 times, that LSU coaching adjustments in game. Mississippi State, Ole Miss, in particular, they really did a phenomenal job defensively, causing a lot of problems. Now, once LSU was able to score points offensively, if you make this Ole Miss team have to throw the football, they're in trouble. People not watching it think, oh, Lane Kiffin, he throws it all over, because they remember that. No. This is a running team with really good backs. One of them was banged up and got injured in the game. And once they got behind, they're in trouble. So that's what happened. I think it was a lot more about LSU. And I think Ole Miss is still good. I just don't think, again, people are making that judgment of, oh, can they win the West? No, they can't win the West. They weren't, in my opinion, a threat to win the West before last week. They're definitely not now. They do have, Alabama coming up. Now they do have A&M, then Alabama, Arkansas, Mississippi State. So look, I mean, you're still looking at an A&M situation's a mess. Arkansas is going to be a tough game. And then they seem to have Mike Leach's. If I'm looking at coaching matchups, I mean, Lane usually gets the better of Mike. Most people usually do. So we still could be talking about a 10-2 team, which at Ole Miss is hotty-toddy. I mean, gosh almighty, right. 10-2, but it is reflective of their schedule.
Chris's appearance brought to you in part by Andy Mason Real Estate. Go to andymasonrealestate.com and know that you're not going to potentially lose thousands of dollars as I did, because I didn't know that Andy was a realtor when I made my first home purchase, and we went to high school together. And andymasonrealestate.com is the person you need to be in touch with. The tenets of his business are pretty simple: best prices and the best service. How about that? andymasonrealestate.com. So, Chris, let's take a look at some of the grades. And again, I know this is slightly on a curve because it was UT Martin, but who were some of the players that stood out to you in terms of what they did? Maybe some trench guys, because we all know Jalen Hyatt played well again, but what are some real grades when you dig deep into it?
Yeah, I mentioned Princeton Fan, I thought did a really good job. Hooker and Hyatt did a really good job. I thought Caton did a really good job as well. Squirrel White did some good things. I was impressive defensively. William Wright, I thought did a good job in the secondary for them. I thought offensive line was. I think the offensive line, as I mentioned, is going back and even studying the tape even more from the Alabama game. That was where the game was. That's where the rubber meets the road there, because you don't have those deep chunk plays if the protection's not there. And I thought they did. They just mauled this unit, but that offensive line is markedly improved. And the biggest difference between, last year's team and this year's team offensively. So all those plays that you watch that are exciting and deep, that has a lot to do with the play up front, and mainly in the run game, because the commitment to run and the willingness to run. If you go back in the summer, where does Tennessee need to improve? I was asked. Running game. You force numbers into the box, you're not going to have enough people to defend these receivers. If you can't run the football well, then you can lay back, play soften coverage, and then you've got a real opportunity to slow down this offense. But when you protect well, and mainly you run well. See, when you run the football defensively, they can't tee off on you. They've got to set the edge in the run first, and it's a big problem to get pressure. You got to get there in under 2 seconds. If you hesitate a bit, you're not going to get there quick enough. So I think the offensive line play as a group has been really improved. I think the tackles get a lot of credit. I don't think the interior guys get noticed enough, because when you get a tackle and Will Anderson doesn't have a great game, and he's doing a good job, but I think the interior guys are the most important, because that's where the run game starts. And that's where the biggest pass protection issues are if you have a flaw. It's through the A gap, through the B gap. They are doing a really good job there. Now, as I said before, the pace of this offense and getting rid of it quickly aids the offensive line. But that doesn't mean that when you run the football and you move guys off the line of scrimmage, they're not just getting good angles and you've got this like superstar back that's Barry Sanders making everybody miss. They're getting good movement off the line of scrimmage. So that's been impressive. But that's over the course of some of the games I've seen, more so than UT Martin. Obviously, I'm not going to put a whole lot into that because that's where assignment, execution, effort, or assignment and execution could be pretty good and not be very good. The effort may not be all that good, but the result will be good. And that's why you got to grade the assignment, effort, and execution, because those are the things that carry over to better opponents.
I know this is your favorite thing to do. I know you love it. Let's look ahead.
Let's do it.
Let's make predictions. Yes.
Make predictions. Absolutely.
Let's make predictions. If Tennessee can squeeze by Georgia, and I know that a lot of people didn't think that they could squeeze by Alabama, but they did. Georgia, I don't think is playing their best football. That's just my opinion. But if they can squeeze by Georgia and they make it to the SEC championship, who will they be playing, and why do they not want to play Alabama again?
Well, I think they'll be playing Alabama. I mean, I don't think LSU has the type of team that's going to be able to attack Alabama where they're quote-unquote weak. So, I mean, I felt beginning of the season, I felt even through Alabama's troubles, after the Tennessee game, that they're playing, that it's going to be Alabama and going to be representing the West. I still feel that way. A lot of it has to do with anticipation of because I've seen it happen before, and that's why I talk about consistency. I've seen Alabama's team struggle and just get progressively better as the year goes along. I anticipate more and more of that. I think Bryce Young is playing great, and if he can stay healthy, that's a big factor. But I think that all the talk about the demise of Alabama, and they made way too many penalties, some of them forced against Tennessee, some of them unforced errors. And if they clean that up, maybe they could have won it. But all the talk about the demise of Alabama is not giving Tennessee enough credit. Tennessee caused a lot of problems. All those misplays in the secondary were pressure induced and Tennessee induced. So I think they'll get another shot if Tennessee makes it. I think Tennessee's. Really, you don't think about that. I would say that, like it or not, they're probably going to play Alabama again. If I were Tennessee, they're not going to say it. I don't think it really matters, but I think they'd probably rather somebody trip Alabama up. I mean, if I were Tennessee and I'm looking for the easiest path to win the conference championship game, I mean, I'd rather play, LSU or A&M. LSU or Ole Miss. I don't think that's going to happen. I think I think Alabama's still better. If I were Tennessee, the tougher matchup, I think Tennessee matches up well against Alabama. But I think they match up better against LSU because LSU, as good as Jaden Daniels is playing, and he's a mobile quarterback, it's still Bryce Young, and I think it's Alabama's experience. I think all those things matter. And on a neutral field, I know this. I know Alabama would like to get to play Tennessee again because they'd like to, to get to the conference championship game. But I will say this. I think Alabama matches up better with Georgia than Tennessee because of the problems covering deep. I think Tennessee's obviously the vertical passing game is a lot more challenging, but it's going to be tough either way.
And you said that way back in the summer too. Just to remind people, you said that Alabama, as far as playing Tennessee, it was a tougher matchup for them schematically than it was Georgia. So far that's proven to be true. 2 players on the message board that people wanted me to ask about, and that is how they graded out Darnell Wright and Squirrel White, right?
Yeah, I mentioned Squirrel. I thought he was kind of the guy that kind of stepped up in a game like this because he got more reps and played well. He graded out very well. And Darnell's was outstanding. I thought he did a really good job. And I thought assignment technique-wise, he was good. Again, in this game, the result – this is why the result is not what you study. It's the assignment, effort, and execution because that leads to the result. In a game like this, I thought he did good things, but there's some times where the result is really good just because you're just physically, imposingly that much better. But I thought Darnell played very well.
Great stuff, Chris. We certainly appreciate it. We will talk to you on Thursday and enjoy the rest of the week.
Hey, thanks a bunch, guys. Take care. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
You
That's
too.
Chris Landry of LandryFootball.com. His appearance brought to you in part by Owl's Nest Barbecue and Oodlewa, which I stumbled over earlier. They got all the only time. Sometimes I love it when I make Amanda smile and laugh. It makes my day. Except when I do something stupid that makes her smile and laugh. And then it kind of makes me feel like a real moron.
I was just trying to warn you. I was like, no, it's not the craft treats with the rubs and the spices.
Craft treats is coming up, but Owl's Nest Barbecue right there in Oodlewa. If you're ever driving through, stop by, and they've got the Green Mountain grills that are phenomenal, and we're going to have surprise packs to give away, and you will love that with some of the rubs and some of the sauces. They are just unbelievable. Coming up. Wow. We've got a little bit of message board bingo where we give stuff away. I know you love free stuff. Who doesn't? And this day in sports history is strong to quite strong. It's awesome. Biles Automotive Group right there on Callahan. Strong to quite strong. You like that?
Strong to quite strong.
Yes.
In the level of strength, we have weak, we have super weak, or super weak, middle row. And up there, strong to quite strong.
Yes, strong to quite strong.
What is past strong to quite strong?
Somewhat
quite strong
mighty.
to very strong?
Somewhat mighty.
Somewhat mighty. Okay. I just have to get a graph. Sorry.
2 minutes, and this day in sports history is a a triple shot because we'll take you back over the weekend. How about that? Stay tuned.
It's Gary Viles here, Viles Automotive on Callahan Drive. I've been selling cars here in East Tennessee for 27 years. In that time, I've come to realize it's not about the car. It's about you, the customer. So I'm here to take care of you just like family. Good credit, bad credit, you name it, we can get you taken care of. If we don't have it, we can find it for you. We go across the country to get any vehicle that you want. And here at Viles Automotive, we don't believe in fake numbers. We just give you great deals. And as always, we want, we need, and we appreciate your business.
Do you want to own the more that owns every job? Then get to Vassy Lawn and Garden in Cleveland and get you a Toro. I'm David Vassy, here to talk to you about Toro. With a Toro Zero Turn, you'll get more out of every minute and you'll reach the finish line faster. At Vassy's, we like to say, no matter if you're mowing 3 acres a week or 11 lawns a day, homeowners and business owners alike find confidence in equipment they can trust from top to bottom.
Vassy Lawn and Garden, Highway 60 North in Cleveland.
Man alive, it's worth the drive.
This is Steve Rain. I own the Midnight Oil and Michelin Tire Direct service station here in Ooltewah. It's not a fancy place, never has been, but it's a clean place with clean restrooms and good folks who work here. We sell gas and fix cars, nothing glamorous, but we love what we do and we're going to keep doing it for a long time to come. There's not many real service stations left, and that's a shame. We're the guys just like the guys back in your hometown. We'll fix your tire, change your oil, and put a new set of Michelins on your car. If you want a Twinkie, you'll just have to keep on going. Thanks for the business.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
Are you okay?
Just last night, like my voice started going, and I was like, "Uh-oh!" So I drank tea, and then now I'm just kind of.
You sound great.
Thank you.
There we go. We're getting to message board bingo. Your chance to win stuff. Also this day in Tennessee sports history, which I want to thank Brittany Campbell for that. And Halloween coming up, by the way. And we discussed on Friday that we were going to give away candy cigarettes to all the children in the neighborhood. Are we still going to do that?
Candy cigarettes?
Yes. Don't you remember that we were discussing candy cigarettes?
I do remember that. I thought that was kind of a joke, but I guess if you want to get some candy cigarettes, why don't we just write off the hook on them? And so people can just, their parents know exactly where they came from so they can follow along every day.
Like, that's that guy. Oh, block his site. But by the way, I guess we're getting somewhat popular thanks to you, because goodness gracious, if you need to find love or a random hookup, just go to the message board. I'm left and right trying to delete these Tinder apps. I didn't know Tinder was still a thing. Is that a swipe left? What does it mean? Maybe we should just start it as a bit. Swipe left if you think that Tennessee is going to win an SEC championship. Swipe right if you think they're not. Or does
How would we know who's swiping what?
Because of the way you motion your arm back and forth for those that are watching on video.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, how do we record the swipes? We have to get on Tinder and make a profile?
There are a lot of technological issues we've overcome going way back to week one when a tree fell on the house during Ben Joyce's interview. We need to reach out to him too, and we will do that. Go to our YouTube page and check out the interviews with Cooper Mays and Jacob Warren, and we'll also have breakdowns. Because this apparently is a thing. You can make $750 a day, according to one post on our message board. It says Quote, you've got to get up every morning with determination if you're going to bed with satisfaction. I'm determined to report you as spam. So I feel satisfied that I have reported this person as spam.
I feel like $750 and that whole going to bed with satisfaction thing that's a mixed message there.
Oh, are you there? There is an easy way for some of us to, not us, some people out there to go to bed with $750 of satisfaction.
Apparently.
That's all I have to say about that.
It's a trend.
Is it a trend?
Apparently.
The Tinder. Want to remind you, Vassy Lawn and Garden, man alive, it's worth the drive. Vassy Lawn and Garden in Cleveland has the industrial mowers, the commercial mowers, and they also have the just absolutely fantastic residential mowers. And you're going to save money there in Cleveland, whether or not you're in Knoxville or Chattanooga or Nashville. Vassy Lawn and Garden, man alive, it is worth the drive. So it is time for this day in sports history. What do you think about that? So we've got a lot going on. This day in Tennessee sports history is now.
This day in sports history, putting things in perspective, exclusively on Off the Hook Sports with Dave Hooker.
You're so old. When you were a kid, rainbows were black and white.
LaFrada.
New kids on the block just called. They wanted you as a backup dancer.
Again, thank you to our loyal listener, viewer, follower, watcher, all that good stuff. We want to thank Brittany Campbell for providing a spreadsheet that has a breakdown of this day in sports history. So today is October the 24th. But if I may, I would like to go back to October the 22nd. And that is 1983. Tennessee beat Georgia Tech 37-3. Quarterback Alan Cockrell with 189 yards. That seemed like a good amount back then. Nowadays, it's like, what's wrong with your quarterback? He had touchdown passes to Clyde Duncan and Lenny Taylor and Johnny Jones. Johnny Jones was my first favorite Tennessee football player. Little running back, little scat back type. He was my very first favorite college football player, Tennessee player. I loved watching him. I guess I would have been about 9 years old at the time. And then yesterday, number 5, the Vols beat Alabama 21-7 in Tuscaloosa. 5th straight victory over Alabama. T. Martin had a pass for a touchdown, 2 rushing touchdowns. Jamal Lewis, 23 runs for 117 yards. Cedric Wilson, 5 receptions for 53 yards. And the fact that Cedric Wilson's this was back in 1999. The fact that Cedric Wilson's son is in the NFL makes me feel incredibly old. And October 24th, which is today, the Vols beat Florida 38-7 back in 1970. Bobby Scott, my guy, record 385 yards, named the AP quarterback of the week. Jackie Walker returned an interception, 19 yards for a touchdown. And you were going to say, Amanda?
I have it this day in sports history.
Okay, lay it on me.
All right, so this doesn't probably really count, but it's fine. Today is my parents' anniversary, and this day in sports history, they got married on October 24th, which is oftentimes the third weekend in October. My mother is a Tennessee fan. My father is an Alabama fan. Here we are.
There you go. So it worked out. Did
not work out.
Oh.
I mean, no, it did. They're
You're
good.
Here. You're here.
No, they're good. It's actually my my dad, my stepdad. But
well, somebody had to get
good
together for you to be here.
Yeah. Well, they're good, but he's an Alabama fan. She's a Tennessee fan. So every year they're probably fighting on their anniversary because it's the third week in October most of the time.
Well, now you had to go to a wedding and you were upset about that. How did they manage that, both being college football fans, and then they got married on the third Saturday in October? They just go down to the courthouse in the morning, or what they do?
No, they had a wedding. I have no idea. I have no clue. I was like 6 when that happened, or 5 or 6. So I have no idea.
I can tell you that my parents' anniversary was on March the 16th, and I was born on March the 13th. Now, obviously, they were different years, but as a child, I didn't comprehend that. So at like 4 or 5 years old, I pitched an absolute tantrum that none of my baby pictures were in the wedding pictures. They were different years. But I thought at the time, I mean, my mom had to explain to me, she still remembers this, how she had to explain to me over and over that they were different years. And it took me forever to get it because I was a child. But I was like, if you all got married on the 16th and I was born on the 13th, why am I not in the wedding pictures? I was so mad. I remember it being like an issue that we were able to move past.
It's insane.
Say something insightful while I block these perverts.
Something insightful while you block these people. I don't know, but I don't know anyone who would have ever pitched a fit about not being in the wedding photos. Like, I don't know any 5-year-old that would care that much.
I mean, are you implying I'm vain at all? Is that what you're trying to say?
Oh, no, I don't think we had like a 10-minute conversation on air about how hot you were earlier.
I don't remember that. This day in sports history is brought to you by our friends at Nutrition World. Nutrition World is partnering on your wellness journey. Nutrition World is bringing you with their e-commerce store the kinds of supplements that you can trust, and you can't trust them all. I will promise you that. So when you go to Nutrition World, it is very easy and very simple to go ahead and plug in what you need for your supplements. Go to nutritionw.com. That's nutritionw.com. And I want to get your thoughts as far as a different perspective and how Nick Saban handled the Jermaine Burton issue, allowing him to play. I've got some pretty strong thoughts that I wrote about on offthehooksports.com. And I think that charging the field, I'm going to sound like the old fuddy-duddy, should be stronger legislated. I don't think that there should be a way for you to charge the field. I don't know how it can happen. I know it's neat and it just happened against Alabama, and everybody's like, Dave, you're a big stick in the mud. But I do think there is potential for a lot of bad things to happen, and that is the player's turf. But I did think Jermaine Burton would be suspended, but he wasn't on Saturday. Were you surprised? And then essentially, to paraphrase, Nick Saban had said that he was afraid at the time. And I've been at Georgia when Georgia finally broke the streak against Tennessee. I've been amidst that accidentally, just trying to get to the press area. And it was scary. I think I've mentioned to you, we almost trampled 2 girls and you couldn't even move your feet. So, I mean, there's something to that. I still don't understand why Nick Saban wouldn't have sat him for a game after video surfaced of him punching a female. I just want to get your thoughts. A, you follow Alabama. B, being a female. Just what did you make of that whole scenario, 10,000 square foot view?
Okay. So first I've seen 2 different videos. One showing him punching a girl and one showing him just like putting his hand out. I've heard there's one that's doctored that's going around that he punched her. And my feeling is, if he punched a girl in the head, the girl would have stumbled, she would have fell, she would have done something that showed that she's been punched in the head. Just if somebody comes and punches me in the head, I'm going to the ground. That's just, I'm a girl. I mean, I would go to the ground. So I'm not sure, because I know one has been doctored to show a punch. I know one has not, that just shows him like kind of shoving. So I'm not sure which one's accurate. I would lean more towards the one of him just like putting his hand out. I don't think he should have put his hand out on anybody, regardless of what happened. The thing that Nick Saban talked about, and this is what I always lean towards the side of, as you know, with the McCullough situation, Deshaun Watson, there are two sides to every story. There are always two sides to every story. And what Nick Saban came out and said was, there's more to this story than you know. There's more to this story than people know. I'm not going to divulge it, but there's more to this, and maybe you would understand a little bit more of what's going on if you knew the other side, but this is not something that I'm going to divulge. Nick Saban's never been one of the coaches to shy away from discipline. We know that. There's been, even you've talked about times where there's been his best player on the team, and he kicks him off the team because of what they're doing. So for me, just looking at this from a just a completely, wide view, I'm going to take what the coach that has always been the person that has disciplined his players, I'm going to take what he says to heart more than I would take what anybody else says or what have you. I don't know what happened out there. No one knows what really happened. I mean, again, there's two different videos floating around. So I until you know the whole story, I stay out. Like, I don't pass judgment.
And if the video is doctored, I've seen both of the videos that you're referring to, and one of them does look a little bit worse than the other. It's kind of like a jump cut sort of thing. I will go with Steve Spurrier, who I thought was lax at times in discipline, and I would do exactly what he said, and that is, if you hit a woman, you're just not going to be a part of this team. Now, that would be my hard and fast rule. But at least, listen, if he was having some sort of anxiety attack because people rush the field, and that is not I'm not underplaying that. Okay. I think that could be a real thing, because listen, I was scared in the middle of it. Okay. And I was a big boy back then. I could take care of myself, but you had no control of where you were going. And this was not like rushing the field in 98, where there was space in between people. If you go back and look, this one was shoulder to shoulder. I mean, you have no control of where you're moving. Now, at the time that Burton pushed or threw the punch or whatever the case may be, he had space as he was trying to get to the locker room. So, but could he have been, especially after a game like that, been super hyped up? Yes. Is that a situation in which, if you ever had to make an excuse to strike a woman, yeah, he may not even know it's a female when he is pushing or throwing the punch. I get all that. I just would have, for the optics of, I would have sat him for one game. That to me is the minimum. And I was surprised that Nick Saban didn't do that. And I will say this, I don't want to go conspiracy theory too far on it, because we need to get today's tough question in. I don't want to go conspiracy theory too far on it, but you and I both said that we think there's a good chance this is Nick Saban's last year. So their skill position players, other than Jahmyr Gibbs, are not great. Did he feel like he needed Burton in there? This is why I go back to the SEC or the conference or the NCAA, whatever it is. There needs to be somebody that handles discipline internally, because you can't leave it up to the coach. Nick Saban, anybody, whoever we're talking about, okay? Because the coach there's a conflict of interest there. He has to look out for his assistant coaches, who could be shipped to Washington if somebody gets fired. He's not going to get fired, but if somebody were to get fired, there's a conflict of interest. There also is a conflict of interest on a personal level if he wants to ride off into the sunset. Again, not saying that went through his head, but those would be my main takeaways. 3. 1, I'm really surprised he wasn't suspended for at least a game. 2, if you make physical contact with the female, you're not on my football team anymore, if it's me. And remember this, he has an all 22 view. So he's got the picture that shows down on all 22 players from an end zone standpoint. So he's got the best view of anybody. And then 3, lastly, I would say that if we're going to make this move to a super conference, if we're going to do all these things, okay, and we're going to make college football into a big time thing like it's not already, But if we're going to take those steps, then discipline needs to be handled at some central locale, not determined by the head coach. Those are my 3 points.
I don't think this is Nick Saban's last year. I thought that before, based on somebody in a higher up company and something that Nick Saban did not do that he normally does every year. But I think that might just be a sponsorship thing. Anywho, I don't think it's his last year. And I could be wrong because, I mean, obviously. But I think everybody has said this is Nick Saban's last year since Nick Saban was like 2014. So at some point,
we could say it every year. We're going to be right at some point.
Some point, someone's going to be right. But I look at, Josh Heupel. It seemed like with McCullough getting arrested, felony aggravated assault charge. With that happening, I took the stance that we don't know the whole story yet. I didn't see a need for him to be penalized for something that may or may not have happened that we didn't know. That was my opinion on that one. Deshaun Watson, the same thing. We don't know the whole story. Didn't see the need for him to be punished on something that we didn't or did not know. Same with this Jermaine Burton situation. And I think there's a difference in putting your hand and doing this, kind of like stiff arming someone and coming out and punching somebody. Because I've seen plenty of football players punch a woman and they go down like a bag of sand. I don't know if that's right. Just bam.
Ray Rice.
Right in their face. Exactly. Ray Rice, the Joe Mixon, when he punched that girl, she blacked out and knocked her face against a table. That's a different story. This one where he did this, in my opinion, did this, and the girl didn't even falter. I don't necessarily think that was a punch. I don't think you should put your hands on anybody. But then again, I've also had a panic attack where things are happening and I just kind of try to push people away. Claustrophobia, all that crap. Anyway, I don't know the whole story. Nick Saban apparently knows the whole story. I'm going to trust his judgment just based on what he's done in his career so far of being the disciplinarian coach. He's never shied away from sitting somebody if he felt the need to. And he has that power. He has that control. Optics are one thing. I understand the optics, but Nick Saban has never gone with the grain on anything. He's always made his own decision. He has the power to do so. I think Josh Heupel would have started McCullough as well if he had the power to do so. I think that was taken out of his hands.
I have been led to believe that was an administrative issue, a administrative decision. So I think that was probably the case. Again, the optics are one thing. Nick Saban has more power than Josh Heupel. He is, if the administration said to him and said, I think you should sit Jermaine Burton, well, Nick Saban could say that statue outside is of me and I'm going to do what I want to. Okay. He could. And it's not that I don't trust Nick Saban to make the just decision. I really don't trust any coach to make the just decision because I think it's impossible to do so when you're trying to do what's best for your program. And what's best for your program is to win. And so I would just like to see it, even if we don't even say the words Nick Saban or Jermaine Burton or whatever, I would like to see some central form of discipline area where they dole those things out. That's what I would like to see.
That's always going to trend on the optics, though. Even if the whole story is presented, it's going to be, if there's some sort of just disciplinary body in the SEC or in college football, it's always going to trend with the optics, even if the optics aren't the whole story. They're going to trend on what's more PC or what people are going to think that should happen or stuff that they should do or what have you. It's always going to trend that way. So whereas that would be a good idea, sometimes it would be a bad idea because there are different scenarios, such as Jermaine Burton and Joe Mixon. Those are completely different things that happen.
Well, and you can also still mess it up my way. I mean, the NFL did. They didn't punish Ray Rice until they saw the video. So
and only because he was 30 and out of his prime. Let's not kid ourselves.
Well, yeah, I think that's why he didn't get another job too. But but they didn't suspend him until they saw the video. At least it wasn't as severely, if I remember it correctly.
They saw the video, but they didn't suspend him until it got released.
They didn't think everybody else was going to see the video. That is a good point. So yes, but you can still mess it up my way. Okay. If I was the king of college football and I changed everything, you can still mess it up my way. However, it just seems to me that at the end of the day, if your job is to win as many football games and look out for your assistant coaches, and I do believe there's a family top field there, and guys sometimes are now financially independent, but they weren't always, and they don't want to move across the nation. Their kids are in school. I get all that. But at the end of the day, I would have a central discipline committee, whatever it's called. And by Tuesday, Wednesday, you should have time to make the phone calls, and Nick Saban could share his version of the story from Jermaine Burton, and then I would move on from there. That's just my take. But it's funny how on the message board, some people disagree with you and some people agree with you. One person said inadvertent breaking and entering, dumb drunk kid, you get a punch. I'm not sure if that person's referring to the McCullough. Okay. Well, I mean, you could say the same thing about the female. I mean, that's not her space. That is not. I mean, I can tell you that. I mean, it never crossed my mind to punch somebody, but when I was involved in that incident in Georgia, that it was very scary. Had it gotten a little further, I may have considered it. You know, because you had no control over where you were going. I mean, it was absolutely bizarro. Okay, so let's go ahead and get to message board bingo. Message board bingo is now. I love it. Why? Because we get to give away chill pills, and your pet is going to benefit from chill pills, and so will your wallet. If you want to go to crafttreats.com, don't forget you save 20% at checkout with the exclusive code off the hook. The exclusive code off the hook. That's crafttreats.com, and you can win in message board bingo if you tell me what school's fan base's message board was this posted to. Amanda will read it, and you can win some good stuff from Craft Treats. And if you don't have a pet, I stopped over the weekend and picked up some prizes from Craft Treats as well. So we can go with Craft Treats, or we can go with the chill pills. We can do it all, or we can do Allison's barbecue. Yes, we can do Allison's barbecue as well. Yeah. Here you go. I knew it was the same thing. Okay. All right, it is time for message board bingo. Here we go.
Oh, I will say before we do that, Jermaine Burton in the Mississippi State game only had 2 catches. That's it. So I don't know. I'm just going to throw that out there. It wasn't like he was a big time decision maker for the game. Anyway,
I don't think he decided the game either way, but
no.
How it dictated coverage and stuff, I don't know. They were better with him playing than not. I think we would agree there.
Yeah. Arch Manning, oh boy. I'm hearing old Arch has reopened communication lines with UGA, and Arch is the one that reached out. Let me reiterate, nothing is done and no clue what happens from here, but huge problems in Austin.
My wife actually saw this one somehow, but she didn't tell me which fan base it is. She saw it yesterday, but she didn't tell me which fan base. But that makes me believe that it's one fan base because who she follows. John said Texas. No, I don't think that he would. I don't think a Texas fan would say he's going to cruise out. Anybody else? You got 10 seconds. Message board bingo. Don said North Texas. No, it's not North Texas as well. Sam said Texas A&M.
No.
I'm going to go. How did people? Chris, email me if I owe you a shirt. It's been a while. And we'll get those out. We've got most of them out. I'm surprised you don't have yours. Okay.
Crazy Nugs got his.
Yes. Dean says Baylor. Tennessee Junior says UGA. Gene says Ole Miss. Ole Miss is actually a good guess because of the ties the Manning family have there. I'm going to go with Tennessee.
No, no one got it. It's
No?
Oklahoma.
Oh, where the sun beats down upon the range?
Where they snitch on their biggest rival.
When they do that? What did I miss on that?
I don't know, but I'm just saying that they always want the worst for Texas. So
yeah, I think it's a little ugly at times. There you go, kids. We'll be with you at 8:30 in the morning, and we did not have a winner today, but I guarantee
we're not doing one more.
Oh, we can do one more. We can give stuff away.
Okay.
I'm sorry. All
I
right.
just want to do one more.
That's this day in sports history. Let's go to message.
This is hilarious.
All right, I love it.
Bye after 31 years. I have been diehard since I went to my first game in 1991. But after these last 13 years and us losing another second half lead, I am done. I'm canceling my membership, selling my jersey, throwing away all of my gear. I did the same to the Dallas Cowboys a few years ago, and I'm now doing it to my college team. Watching an organization make the same mistakes over and over is just not worth it.
Don says Hawaii. I'm terrible at this.
Hawaii? They haven't been good ever.
Since June Jones decided to get off a plane and drive his car into a bridge. Sure there wasn't any alcohol consumed there. I still don't understand how you escaped that DUI. Anyway, so we have guesses. Chris says Dave is my spirit animal. Maybe, but that doesn't really apply. Gene says A&M. Dean says Florida State. Sam says A&M.
No. This is Texas.
Texas?
Texas.
All right. Have a fantastic day, everyone. We'll see you at 8:30 each and every weekday. And please like, subscribe, and share. We appreciate that on our YouTube channel as it continues to grow. She's Amanda LaFrada. I'm Dave Hooker. This has been a presentation